Hello Mindsetters, welcome to today's Grade 10 Life Sciences show. Today we have a special revision lesson on ecology. We have selected highlights from lessons shown earlier in the term to help you revise this term's work. So please post your comments and your questions on our Facebook page or on Twitter @LearnExtra so we can help you with your revision. You can also download the show notes for today's lesson from learn.mindset.co.za or click on the link on our Facebook page. Now it's time to get on with today's lesson.
Now the question is, oh, come on, there we go. Look at this beautiful thing, and I've taken all the colors away and all the maps, and they want you to identify each and every one. So let's have a look. Okay, first question. Define the term biome. Okay, now the biome, it was very simple. The biome, of course, is when you take a specific area with a specific climate and a specific type of soil or animal or plant or anything that in a certain area. That's called your biome, right? So it's a biome is a certain area with a certain climate and a certain vegetation and animals. Right, that's what a biome is. Nice and simple. Now, next one. Name the two main types of biomes. So, Looney, we get two main types of biomes. Right, let's see how good you are. We have one and we have another. The one is where we live. What would it be?
Where we live.
Where we live, like me and you.
Are you talking about that biotic, abiotic?
Not biotic or
Not that
abiotic.
one.
I'm talking about me and you. What are we? We are humans. Where do we live? On?
Land,
Ah, so one's land and the other one is?
sea, water.
Water. Very nice. So you get two types. You get terrestrial
No,
and
but
you
then
get
now-
aquatic.
What about the air?
They don't stay there for good.
Yes, that's why
They
I
don't
was
stay there for good.
asking.
That's why you get two types.
Okay.
You get aquatic and you get terrestrial.
Terrestrial.
Those are the two that you want. And those are the two main ones I mentioned right in the beginning. Right, so it's aquatic and terrestrial. Those are the two main ones that we're looking for. Right, now, next one I want to look at. Identify biomes A to G. Looney, let's see how good you are. Let's see if you can give this to me. Now, if you remember, I gave you this map. That's why I went through it so quickly with you. So let's see how good or how well Looney listens when I talk to you.
The pressure!
The pressure is on, girl. And I will make it fair. I will choose any color pen you want to mark it. So I will say yellow because I know you love yellow. Okay, so let's start off at pick it. We got to start with A, am I right? So A, here we are. This is A.
It's the red part.
It's the red
That
part.
much I
Very
remember.
nice. And the red part, in my eyes, was the what? Can't remember. Not giving you a clue. Next one. B. This piece.
It is the fleshy part.
No, it's not the fleshy part.
Isn't
This is
it?
the
Savannah.
Savannah's A. Well
And then isn't
done.
that the fynbos part?
This piece is us. We here. This is where you will find things like your cheetah. Because your cheetah needs open space to run fast. It doesn't need any trees or anything in the way. It just has to run straight. On what type of ground?
Dry ground.
Your dad cuts it with a lawnmower.
Grass.
Grass. It's a grassland. Very nice. Come, Looney, you got to keep up with me, girl. That's B. C. C is your...
I know you can do it. I don't.
Okay.
I
C
just
is your
remember the
Naam of
colours.
Karoo. Okay? Your Naam of Karoo. Now, guys, you need to know it like this. Okay? You need to know it off by heart in this way. Right? So C is your Naam of Karoo. Okay? D, which is over here. Remember, that's your succulent Karoo. That's where you, a specific time during the year, tourists from overseas come and have a look at all these different things, right? Okay, so that is this one here. The next one, you're going to get D. E is over here. It is your fynbos, right? That's in Cape Town. Also very famous, right? That's where you're going to get your proteas. Okay, so your proteas, very, very important one. So that's E. F is your foresty areas. That's where it looks like. It's your foresty areas, so it's your forests. And then your last one is this area. Here and there, you'll see little spigots of it. Okay, this is almost like, you'll see Durban's over here, okay? And it's close to Durban, just past it, right? That is where you're going to find this specific area, which is your thicket. Okay, now the thicket, as I remember, it's nice and thick, overgrown things. Okay, now that is what they ask you, and you need to know and understand how to do everything. And there's worse. That was still an easy question. It gets worse. I'm so glad that Looney's here to help me out with this. Which biome is the main, which biome is the main tourist attraction during spring when the whole area is covered with flowers? Now, I know I've told you 500 times, which means Looney needs and can understand where it would be. Now, I remember telling you guys that this is a very special place, okay? The succulent Karoo. Very special because tourists come there during specific time, which is spring, because what happens is the whole ground is just covered in flowers, right? Because these specific ones flower very easy, and tourists, they think it's beautiful. Right, so where do you think it is? It's the succulent Karoo. Very nice. Now, the succulent Karoo is found in which area, D, on the map?
Which area?
D on the map, yeah? Which area?
D.
D, well done! She's got good ears. Right. So that was nice, Looney. I'm impressed, okay? So that was, I don't want to go too much. I'm trying to give you as much as possible. Next one. If I can get there. There. We're back. We're still on this picture. Oh, wait, are we? Go back. There we go. Ha. Which biome includes one of the world's richest floral kingdoms? Which biome consists of one of the richest floral kingdoms? Now, first of all, you need to understand this. Floral meaning flower. Quite nice, right? And kingdom, the plant kingdom, right? But now understand this. It has got one of the biggest plant kingdoms. Okay? It is a plant, which is its kingdom, but it's got the biggest one. We are one of the world's richest floral kingdoms. In other words, we've got so many different types. And in which area is it? Now, you won't believe me, but it's actually somewhere not close to where I am, okay? It's actually there where there's this big mountain and they put this
It's there.
cloth
E.
over.
E.
This one.
Cape Town you're talking about.
Very nice. How do you know that?
I was looking at the notes.
You're looking at the notes. Yes. You know, you see how easy it is.
But then you were also saying the mountain.
The mountain. So what is the
Yes.
mountain? Table Mountain. Very important. Right. That's nice. And now, which biome attracts tourists to the many game farms? Now think about it. Game farms. Where do we find most of our game farms? Okay? Where do you think it would be, Looney? Our game farms. Now remember, game farms, we're having a look at certain places. Where would it be? It could either be two places.
Savannah.
It could either be the grasslands or the savannah. Okay? So it's either those two. Now normally it would mostly be at the savannah areas, okay? Because the savannah areas is where you're going to get most of your big five. It's got a bigger terrain of all the other things, right? So your savannah is the biggest one, okay? So that is very nice. I'm impressed, Looney. Keep this up. We might make you pass. Which biome is the largest?
Is the largest.
Is the largest? Oh, come on, look here.
Savannah.
Look,
No,
that
no.
took a while. That's right. Look at from here all the
Yeah.
way around, all the way down. Which is the
Yes.
biggest?
Savannah.
The savannah. Very nice. Okay, so the savannah is the biggest. That's nice. And now, which biome will you find the following species? This is a type of question they will ask you. Now, the problem is, your educators have given you notes. You need to know the animals and the plants in them. I know it sucks. And I know it's difficult. But you're big. And so, hey, Looney, we're all big. And I also had to learn it. And I promise you, you will survive. Okay? So let's have a look at it. Firstly, okay, figgies, okay, and quiver trees. Those are normally found in specific places. Those are those little trees with those fun little branches on the side, okay? They are actually found in your Namib Karoo. Okay, so they found it up in your Namib Karoo. Your yellow wood and stinkwood, wood meaning trees, it would be found in the Kamluni. Where do you find trees?
Forests.
Forests, very nice. So you'll find them in the forest. Yeah, Mupani and Baobab. Where would you find that? Those are actually found in the largest region, right? They're found in the largest region. Normally you find your big five there and all of that. Okay? It is? Come, Looney, help me out here. Savannah, good girl. So these ones are found in your savannas, that top area, right? And then you get the last one, which we're having a look at, your proteas, right? Just by saying proteas, automatic, I know it is the fynbos. Very, very nice.
I think it's time for a break now, so don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. Let's not waste any more time and get straight back to today's revision lesson.
I'm sure you recognize this map, all right, from last week. It's one of the nicest, clearest maps that I can find to show you the different regions, okay? Now, I've chosen questions, I won't say that you need to think a bit, but you need to start to looking at these factors, I know we haven't done them yet, but we have secretly in a way done them, right? When we looked at the different biomes, all right, what did we see? Let's take, for example, the succulent Karoo or the Namib Karoo. We saw that it was dry. We saw that there was very little rainfall. Now, because there's a lack of water, we are going to find organisms that have adapted, right, to that lack of water. Where there was lots and lots and lots of rain and lots of moisture, large trees could grow. We could grow forests. Okay, so that, and when we talk, the rain is an abiotic factor, all right? The temperature, all of those things, they have an effect on what is going to live there. So I need you to keep that in mind when we look at the different questions. All right, let's start. If you have a look here, the first question, or it says, name the 2 types of forests found in South Africa. Describe the soil and climatic conditions of these biomes. Okay, if you remember over here, all right, what did we have? We had forests. All right, and when it came to the forest, we have 2 types. All right, we have got your tropical. Right, and what do we find there? Right, it says here, describe the soil and climatic conditions of these biomes. All right, and we've got the subtropical. You don't have to describe the conditions for all of those. What soil and climatic conditions, all right, were favorable to a large tree? Very first thing, okay? For a very large tree, we must have lots of soil, okay, and it must be deep, right? Because we've got trees. And what have trees got? Trees have got these long, long, long roots, right? And that is why they can stay there. Because there's a lot of soil, their roots can grow bigger, all right? And they can grow deeper. The deeper the root, the taller, the bigger the tree it can sustain. Climatic conditions, right? What was it? Lots of rain, all right? And when it's also lots of rain, it's rain throughout the year, right? You can have lots of rain just one season, but it rains throughout the year. So we have this constant water supply. What do trees need? Big trees need water, and they need nice nutrients, all right, or fertile soil. And because you've got that, what you're going to have? The nice big tree. Aha, now, alluding to this question earlier, what influence could the cold Benguela current on the west coast Here we go. On the west coast, cold. Notice the direction I've put it in because it's going to come here from the South Pole. Notice it's warm there coming from the tropics. Okay. What influence will the cold Benguela current have on the west coast, the vegetation? They've only asked you about the plants. Okay. Now, what did we say? The cold Benguela current, if it's cold, what happens? Okay, again, geography and biology come a lot into this when we look at ecology, this section. With the air is cold. What generally happens is it doesn't rise as much. So we've got here, I'm going to use the word, there's very little condensation, right? Because there's not so much moisture in the air. Very little condensation. Now, because there's very moisture, now we're going to do the water cycle later. Remember, here's water. When water evaporates in the air, all right, when it gets to a certain level, condensation occurs. When condensation occurs, then it can rain. It will fall down to the ground again. So now, because of the coldness, we have very little condensation. Because we have very little condensation, we have very little rain. All right, so that, now let us link it back to vegetation. Very little rain, tell me about the conditions. The conditions are dry. Now, if you go up here, the west coast, what area do I find over here? Okay, what area do I find over there? Yes, I'm going to find my Namakuru and my succulent karoo. All right. And can you remember the kinds of plants that you found there? They were small. Don't know if you can remember the pebble plant. So what's the vegetation? They're small. They've got anything. All right. So any kind of adaptation. Small, thin leaves. Right, anything that you're going to mention. All right, I'm going to go over here to stop them losing, all right, water. So very important. Cold, no rain. Very little rain. Very little rain, the area is dry. Okay, and remember what I say to you. Let's think back. If the area is dry, what kind of vegetation we're going to have? Big trees, all right, big trees that need lots of water, or small plants that are able to store water, plants that have your cactuses, all of those that have got any kind of mechanism that are able to store water and not to lose water. Think about your challenge question in the beginning. Okay, next question. It's your fynbos. In what way is the fynbos region not suitable to the growth of plants? Okay, have a look. If we look at our fynbos, let's go back to our map. All right, if we go back to our map, remember you need to know your regions. If you don't know your regions, then you are going to be lost. Here is fynbos. It was there round about, all right, the Western Cape areas. And what do we know? Does it get rain? Yes, it does get rain, all right, mostly winter rainfall. So the lack of rain cannot be the reason why it's not suitable. So what can my other option be? It has to be the soil. All right, the soil in my fynbos is very acidic, and because of that, all right, it's not very conducive to plants, all right, growing. So it's very specific. Although, remember what I said, if we look at the fynbos has got the greatest biodiversity. It has got, and I hope last week you learned about the word endemic, right? It has got plants that, remember what endemic means? Found nowhere else in the world, just in that particular region. I always think of proteas, all right? I love the proteas. They're one of my favorite flowers, all right? They are endemic, that means they're ours, right? They started here, they belong to us, and they shouldn't be found anywhere else because that particular soil that's found there is suitable just for the fynbos. Okay, now fynbos, very important. All right, why is fire important for the fynbos vegetation? What does fire do? Fire causes the seeds to burst. All right, it's one of the strange things. If we look at one of the abiotic factors, if we look at fire, fire is actually quite dangerous and it's quite destructive. All right, because obviously it can kill a lot of our plants, a lot of the animals, all right, can be destroyed. Obviously, yes, it does bring about renewal, but for fynbos, fire is actually an important part, all right? Not all the time, you don't want to have fires constantly, right? But what happens when there is a fire? Those seeds are quite hardy, and the heat of the fire actually causes the seeds to burst open, and it helps with their germination. Okay, so it helps with the seeds, with the germination. Now you need to think back again, all right? What is the difference between the vegetation? So we want the difference. As soon as you see difference, I automatically start to do a table because it keeps my thoughts a lot clearer. So what is the difference between the vegetation? All right, vegetation. So what are we looking at? Plants, all right? Of the grasslands and the savanna. Okay, go for the obvious first. What do we find in grasslands? Okay, grass. All right. What do we find in savanna? Savanna, we start to see small trees. Right, we can even have big trees there. I hope last week you would have done the baobab and the marula tree, all right, and the acacia tree. So we're starting to see small trees and shrubs. Okay, so it said there, what is the difference between the vegetation? So grassland, pretty much dominantly grass, all right, whereas in our savanna, we're talking about the natural, all right, what natural vegetation we're going to find. What do I find in savanna? Right, think about your acacia tree, all right, that umbrella tree, all right, think about your baobab, your marula. So they're not overly, other than the baobab, all right, not overly big trees, but you don't find forest. You see them sprouted all along the bushveld. You see little shrubs, okay? So we have a different picture, right, than the grasslands. Now, question number 6. Describe the effect elephants will have on the savanna. All right, so we've got elephants, savanna. Now, very important, during times of drought, okay? What happens during times of drought is that the trees, what's going to happen to the trees? They dry out, don't they? All right, and they might die, they might not, but they start to dry out. What do elephants do? Elephants, okay, they break down all the trees. They break down the trees, they destroy their habitat, all right? And when they break down the trees, and I said they destroy the habitat, all right, what happens then? They actually become a nuisance, right? They become a nuisance. They as I said, they destroy the habitat, and when they destroy the habitat, all right, they actually make it difficult for other animals to be able to survive, right? Because what do we need trees for? All right, what do we need trees for? We need trees for photosynthesis, all right, so we need trees for oxygen, but most importantly, we need trees for food, right? And with the elephants, because they're bigger, they don't really have a natural enemy, so they are going to be a bit more dominant, okay? They're actually going to destroy the system. So think carefully, break down your questions. Right, question number 7. How are plants adapted to survive the harsh Karoo regions? Okay, here again, go back. Right, when we look at this, remember, we're going to link it later on. You're going to hear this word called a xerophyte. A xerophyte is a plant that is adapted, think about it, zero water. All right, very little water. So how are plants adapted to survive in the regions? Now let's think about plants, all right? What would they look for in the first one that comes to mind is a succulent, all right? Big, it looks big and juicy, but what is it able to do? Like your cactus, it's big, all right? And what is it able to do? It stores a lot of water. All right, also, its leaves. I want you to think of thorns. Right, thorns are actually modified leaves. Right, it's got thorns, or the leaves are very small. Oopsie. The smaller the leaf, the less water we lose. All right, what else can we talk about? Oh, we can talk about, let's go back to the leaves. All right, we'll have sunken stomata. You want the stomata deep down, because if it gives off water vapor here, all right, what's going to happen? It's going to keep the water in the leaf. So we're going to have sunken stomata. All right, they're going to be very small. Okay, so a variety of reasons. Okay, how are they adapted to make sure that they don't lose water? Okay, almost finished this question. As I said, a lot of questions, but you need to, you need to come up with, you need to get your brain going and your brain working. Right, how are animals adapted to withstand the extreme high temperature conditions in the Karoo? You see, we're asking biome questions, and you can see how it's going to relate to the abiotic factors. Okay, so let's think. How are animals? Remember, it's not about plants. High temperatures. First thing we think of, okay, how about being active at night? Nocturnal. Okay, it's colder at night than it is during the day. What else could they do? All right, they could, how about if they burrow? Okay, if they go into a little burrow, all right, during the day. What else could they, I'm thinking of another one. What else? Think about one of let's think about the camel. Okay, no, it's not, no, we can't do the camel. Camel isn't indigenous. I haven't seen one going around. Okay, we have a thing called the kangaroo rat. Yes, we do have one, all right. And what it does, its urine is powder. I know that sounds odd, all right, but what does it do? It is able to absorb all of its water, all right? It's got all of its water it can reabsorb, so that when it urinates, it's powder, all right? It's kept all its water in its dry areas. Okay, our last question. What is the importance of fog, all right, from the Atlantic Ocean in the succulent Karoo? What is fog? Fog is water vapor. All right. And what is water vapor? Right, it's water for the plants and animals. Right, because they don't have rain. So what will happen? Fog, right, comes over. Fog is like a mist. Right, and what is that mist? Right, it's able to cool down and to provide water for the animals.
Okay, guys, I hope you're enjoying this revision session. If you are struggling and need help, please post on the page or send your questions to the Learn Extra Help Desk. The links are on our Facebook page. But now it's time to take a very quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break, guys. Doing revision is really important, so I hope you are enjoying this lesson. I'd love to chat to you on our Facebook page or on Twitter, so please let us know how you are doing. Enough of the chat, now it's time to get back to some more revision.
In an investigation into soil samples, and we haven't done soil samples yet, so we'll go back and talk about them now, with different pH values. So soil samples with different pH values, that's important. were taken to determine which pH range different soil animals prefer. So in other words, animals like different pHs, okay? Keep that in mind. Study the following graph, which shows the range of pH within which each of 4 soil animals, A to D, is found, okay? So there's your graph. A, B, C, and D are the animals, right? And then at the bottom here, you've got your pH range. Okay, so now, before we can talk about that, we need to figure out what's going on with soil. So let's go and talk about soil. Okay, now, Luni, when was the last time you played in mud?
You're in mud.
In mud.
Probably when I was in
Maybe like this big.
preschool, yeah, like
Okay.
short little.
And what did it feel like?
It was wet and gooey.
Wet and gooey?
Yes.
Okay. And could you, if you did this with it,
It
Did it
slipped off.
it slipped off?
Yeah.
Did it feel rough?
Sometimes
Okay.
it felt. I think it's because there were like little stones in the mud.
Okay.
It's like when you go like this, it felt a bit rough.
All right. So I like the fact that you said it was gooey. Okay. Because now if I think back to the last time I played with mud, also like, and probably like 1,000 years ago, because I'm a lot older. So, but mine didn't feel gooey. Like I remember the soil was, okay, let's put this pen down. You could pick it up and it sort of just fell through my hands. So it wasn't like pick it and gloop. It wasn't one of those. You pick it up and it fell through your hands. Okay. So that means that at least between the two of us, we have 2 different types of soil.
Different parts of the country.
Different parts of the country, maybe the garden's been done or been changed in a specific way because of plants that mom's grown or whatever. Like, so there is a reason for it to be different. Okay. There should actually be 3. So there's 3.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the 3. So you should have 3 different types of soil. So let's talk about them, and then we'll talk about what makes them up. You get sandy soil. I'll draw a block for a change instead of underlining it. You get a sandy soil. You get what is called a loam. So we don't have the name here, so I will write it for us. Loam. And then we have clay. So the type of soil that Looney was talking about, where it's sort of sticky and gloopy like that, I would think that's clay soil, okay? Because the particles stick closer together, they hold water. So water doesn't drain very well out of that particular soil. The type of soil that I was talking about, where it just falls out of your hands, that was the sandy soil, okay? It has a grainy texture. It's formed from, this is important, weathered rocks. And someone's going to say, I know someone's going to say, but all soil comes from rocks. Yes, you're right. Okay, somewhere along the line, some mountain or some rock has been worn down, but different types of rock give us the different types of soil. Okay? The type of soil here is limestone, granite, quartz, shale. You don't need to know what the type of rock is, where it comes from. Okay, you don't need to know that. All that I'm saying here is that the sandy soil has got a very different texture. It comes from these particular rocks, and if you decide to go and study geology, which is the study of rocks, you will figure out the details as to why it behaves the way it does and why you end up with a sandy soil and not something like clay. Okay, let's talk about the clay soil. Very fine granules. Sandy soil, it had grain, what they call grainy granules. Clay is fine granules. Okay, less air spaces. Water holding capacity is high. Sometimes it leads to waterlogging, which means that the water doesn't drain away and it gets all soggy and the water just collects. Okay, aeration is minimal. And clay becomes very heavy when it's wet. It doesn't sound like it's the nicest place to grow if you're a plant. Doesn't mean that plants can't grow in clay soil, but it's not very easy to grow there. Why? Because the particles stick close together. They can't get the plants can't get their roots through because the particles are stuck together. Very little air between the particles. Why? Because they're stuck close together. Okay, so what happens? It hangs on to a lot of water. A lot of water gets collected. What happens when there's a lot of water around the roots? The roots will drown or they will die. And that means that the plant doesn't continue to survive as it should. So if your plant dies, we have a problem. Not what we want to have happen. So what actually is the best type of soil? It's the loam. It's got sand, it's got silt, and it's got clay. Okay? So if you go into these beautiful gardens, there's always competitions every year where ladies or gentlemen have spent hours and sometimes months and weeks and years in growing beautiful gardens. You go in and you have a look at the soil in their gardens, and it's that deep, dark, rich color, rich mixture, loam soil. But it's a mixture. It is a little bit of sand, a little bit of silt, a little bit of clay. Okay, so the sand we said came from the rocks like limestone and that. The clay we said was those particles that stick close together. And silt is like that fine, fine, fine sand that you get at the bottom of riverbeds. All right, so in the specific composition, those mixed together, that makes loam soil. Why is it such a good one? Sandy part of it gives air spaces between the soil particles, so the roots can push through and the little bugs and the little worms can move their way through. Okay? Water, when it rains or when you water the garden, the water can seep through between the various particles so water can get into the soil. Clay, why is it important to have a little bit of clay in there? So that the water doesn't just run out. So the clay will keep it sticking a little bit better than the sand, so it can hold on to a little bit of water so the water doesn't just run out, so the roots have time to drink up and to absorb the water. Okay, but what else is important about the loam? It's not just the silt and it's not just the clay. It is things like the pH. Okay, Leni, I'm going to spring a science question on you. What is pH? Can you remember?
Levels of...
Okay, Leni's doing this.
No,
I like it. Yeah, levels of
acid.
yes. And
Acid and
what's the opposite of acid?
base.
There we go. Right. So pH is a scale. The pH scale indicates how acidic or how much acid or basic, how much base there is in a particular soil. Now, interesting thing is, different plants and different animals like different pHs. So not everybody likes to be in the middle where it's neutral. Some of them like it more acid, some of them like it more base. All right, so let's talk about this question. So the different types of soil, and we said that pH is important. So now the question was about animals that live in different pHs of the soil. So, looking at our graph, which species, A, B, C, or D, occurs over the widest range of pH conditions? And you have to explain your answer. Okay, so remember, at the bottom here is our pH range, and then our individual arrows, just in case, our individual arrows over here, those are our animals. So, which one, A, B, C, or D, occurs over the widest range? Simple, look for the longest one. So, the longest one would be D. Okay, I was from the right place. D. And then to explain your answer, you're going to say something about how long the pH or how wide the pH range is. So let's see, it's about 4, it's about 9. So we'll say something like, has a pH range from 4 to 9, let's say. Okay? can survive in pH conditions below 4. Okay, so we have a look. pH conditions below 4, that is anything down this side. So what do we have? pH condition, ooh, we've got 2. Okay, which one is more likely? More likely, I would say, is C, because most of the arrow is below 4, but it could possibly be A. So if you want to say, you can say A, oh my goodness, A and C. Okay, it hasn't asked us to explain, so we don't need to explain, but if you wanted to, you could say that the arrows occur below, or it indicates that the animal lives in a pH range below 4 and appears to be least tolerant of acidic conditions. In other words, it is not good in acid. Now, you need to know something about what is acid and what is base. If you didn't know, you need to listen carefully. Your pH scale works from 1 to 14. In the middle is pH 7, it's your neutral. Okay, anything less than 7, so from 1 to 6.9. So if we say 1 to 7, it's going to be acid. If we go 7 to 14, it's going to be base. So if we go 1 to 6.9, acid, 7 point something, so maybe 8 to 14, it's base. So quickly, before we go to a break, because I know it's time for a break, which is least tolerant of acidic conditions? It has to be the one that's nowhere near 7, and it's going to be B.
When it comes to questions on this section, all right, very often food chain can be asked because it shows all the different relationships. Let's have a look at this one. Okay, when we get to food chains, as I said before, you very seldom, you guys always think of the land, the terrestrial ones. Here we have an aquatic, all right, ecosystem. Have a look. There's the energy from the sun, all right, and then the showing of the arrows. The arrow shows you, all right, the transfer of energy from one level to the next. Okay, so question, what term can be used to describe the diagram, all right? What diagram are we showing you? We are showing you a food chain, not a food web, all right? Have a look at the arrows. The arrows are showing one specific food chain. Okay, question number 2, identify the following. 1, autotrophic, that is a producer, all right? So you go to your diagram and you look at the one organism that is able to use the sun's energy. The sun, there we go. What is this over here? This is algae, all right? Algae are then my autotrophs because they are going to make the food. Oh, I've spelt it all wrong there. Okay, the next one, a secondary consumer. Secondary consumer is something that gets eaten by something that sounds very good. That's a second animal in the line. All right, have a look. Here's my producer. All right, the first animal that eats the producer is my primary consumer. The next animal that eats my primary consumer is my secondary. This would then be tertiary, all right, and those would be quaternary. Quarter just keeps showing you going up and up. Primary is my mosquito. So what's my second consumer? All right, my second consumer is my dragonfly larvae because it eats my mosquitoes. Okay, now over here, the herbivorous organism. A herbivorous organism eats plants. Now, though algae is not a plant, herbivorous, it makes food. So a herbivore eats the green stuff that makes food. So what would be my herbivore? My herbivore is eating what the sun, the organisms that the sun was able to make from food, and that would have been my mosquito. All right, use your diagram. All the answers are in here. They're not asking you to use any other sources of your information. Okay, question 3. Explain why the amount of available energy decreases at each trophic level. Remember what I said to you. What happens at each level? All right, so decreases means why does it go down? What happens at each level? Energy is lost. But it asks you, explain why. How is energy lost? Energy is lost through cellular respiration. All right, and the other two, I'm just going to go over here. Defecation, feces, all right, and urine. So explain why the amount of available energy decreases. Energy is lost at each level because, all right, at the different trophic levels, respiration, defecation, urination occurs, which the animals, all right, or the consumers, they lose as energy. So at each level, energy is lost. So if you want to go through over here, you can say, the longer the food chain, the less energy is available here. This maneki over here that's fishing, he's going to get very little energy. Because look, the mosquito, then the dragonfly, then the perch, then the pike, then him. All right? If he ate this fish over here, he would have had more energy than eating that one over there. Identify 2 abiotic factors from the diagram. Have a look. All right? Abiotic, non-living. The first one that should have been obvious to you was sunlight. And what kind of ecosystem are we in? Aquatic. So water would have been your other abiotic factor. Another one that you can't really see, but you know that's going to be, you could have said gases. Because what is dissolved in the water? Oxygen and carbon dioxide.
We've come to the end of today's show. Thanks for joining me and for chatting to me during the show. Please visit our website, learn.mindset.co.za, to get the notes and to watch the videos from earlier in the year. And remember, we are here to get you through the year, so stay connected. Goodbye.